These towering monolithic walls along this historic street are all that's left of a massive $150 million mall. This is the City Centre Mall in Hamilton, Ontario, completely preserved and entirely unchanged since it opened in 1990. I'm gonna bring you through this incredible, decaying retail landscape like no other, and figure out why it was such a catastrophic failure. Wow, look at all the, it looks like cleaning product and fire extinguishers. Looks like they're staging all of the light bulbs, and wow, look at all of these light tubes. Throughout the mall, there really isn't much demolition, but it looks like this is one of the few areas that they actually did stuff. This is all ripped out. Oh my god. Look at this. It's like being in a consumerism capitalist cathedral. As we make our way further across the first floor, the vastness of the space has become quite apparent. The mall is laid out as a long 3-story concourse with a grand center atrium adorned with a center art piece on the top trim. The total square footage within is around 450,000 square feet. Oh, look at the glass above. Boy, isn't that telling of the era? These were all illuminated above, probably. Looks like a Thai restaurant or something. Indian food. Jeez. Bella pizza, pasta, and more. This whole area smells horrifyingly bad. Pasta was only $3.99. That's pretty good. Man, these chairs and tables bring back so much nostalgia. Wait, even the waste cans are straight from the 90s. These have not been updated in years. Here's the main elevator shaft too. You can kind of see the elevator back there. Whoa. Oh my god. Has anyone been here since 1990? There's photos of them building this room, painting it. Oh yeah, this is them constructing the office. Okay, this is all time. Whoa! I think I've accidentally entered the office from 1994. This is bizarre. The clothes, like, scattered everywhere is like kind of even more unsettling. How strange is all of this? The history behind this mall actually dates back decades before shovels even went into the ground. Back in the 1960s, the city of Hamilton wanted to rejuvenate the downtown core. They selected a massive block of more than 43 acres, which included the former city hall, all of which would be demolished to make way for this new development. Built upon this land would be Jackson Square, a single-story indoor mall which would be the first phase of a much larger development that spanned this whole area and included office towers, a hotel, and a stadium. Adjacent to the plaza was an existing multi-story Eaton's department store. Eaton's was a staple in Canadian retail, just as much as Sears or Zellers during the time. Many cities in Ontario saw this type of urban renewal development during this time, many of which featuring malls, and having Eaton's as a partner in those developments. The most notable and successful of these projects was in 1977 with the Toronto Eaton Centre. So, with the Eaton's separate downtown location in Hamilton reaching the end of its lifespan, the retailer, along with mall developer Cadillac Fairview, had announced a new shopping center in 1986, planned to be built in the place of the Eaton's department store. It would connect to Jackson Square, and it would be called the Hamilton Eaton Center. So here is basically one of the only anchor stores left before it closed. It's the checkout aisles. Looks old. It's crazy that all these hanging signs are still here. They're definitely from a different era. By the late 1980s, the former Eaton store was now demolished, and work had begun on the new mall. Both its interior and exterior was built in a Michael Graves-esque postmodern architecture, featuring a large clock tower at the corner of James and York that would actually use the same bell from the original City Hall, which once stood on the site. With lots of fanfare, the mall opened in June of 1990. While not featuring a ton of huge brand-name stores, Eaton Center would include retailers like The Gap, Harry Rawson, Ben & Jerry's, Foot Locker, and of course, Eaton's, which would anchor the mall with a huge 4-story space allocated for it. Occupancy rates were pretty high, as were the hopes that the mall would prove to be a popular and economic hit for the city. However, that wasn't going to be the case. This dollar store definitely doesn't employ subtlety. Everything is 50% off. Everything is 40% off, 50% off, 70% off, 80%. Closing sale. Store is closing. And help wanted. There's a lot of crap left behind here. Oh, look at all these racks. Wow, there are tons of cards left over. Just couldn't get rid of them, huh? And seriously, what a bunch of junk. It's crazy that this is the crap that they can't get rid of, but it's all just garbage at the end of the day. The cash registers are also a little Sketchy to say the least. My God, they have a self-described wall of shame. Very classy. Okay, so obviously closing day tenants weren't the highest quality of brands. But even just 2 years after the grand opening, the mall began losing tenants. But the problems continued to get worse from here, as occupancy rates at the mall had fallen to a catastrophic 41% by 1996. Mall walking events were now being held, which is never good, and the entire mall was ultimately put up for sale, as the Eaton's company, which by this point had owned the mall in its entirety, was in dire financial condition. So much so, in fact, that the entire company declared bankruptcy and shut down in 1999. The mall was still up for sale, though, looking for a buyer at just $20 million. As we make our way to the third floor, all of the retail space up here has been replaced by offices. After a decade since the mall had opened, store occupancy was down to a dismal 28%. Seeing that there was so much empty space, the city ultimately cut a deal to occupy some of that retail space on the third level. That trend of turning retail space into office space would continue to make up the majority of the life within the mall going forward. They got a lot of records here just left behind. What's this? Windows 95 virus scan. December 1997 sales report. Wow. January sales report 1997. Looks like these were old ads for the mall. Very old ads when it was still called the Eaton Center. This was one of the fitness centers. A gym. You see with a big crunch fitness. The property was ultimately sold by 2000 for just $3.6 million. That's 5% of what it cost to build a decade prior. With this purchase, the property also saw a name change, now to the Hamilton City Center. Redevelopment talks were already underway by 2002, even proposing to relocate City Hall back to the site. While this never happened, in 2006, the mall did land a new deal for even more office space. But the occupancy problems continued, and the mall slipped further into debt. It would ultimately be sold in 2011, and then again in 2014. Oh my God. Wow, this is a full call center here. It's acoustically really great in here. There's so many dividers, foam dividers. Help desk agent, do not sit here. Wow, this is really interesting actually. I've never been inside a call center before, let alone an abandoned one. Maybe this is all the companies that they service? Yeah, so it looks like some of these, partially at least, were used for CIBC customer help. See like the cheat sheet for all their credit cards here. There's like guides, disposition, not interested, Not offered, hang up, / no info. Huh. And you can actually see some of the headphones that they use. Something you'd only get in the 90s or late 80s is a walkway that is made of glass blocks. These glasses are cracked. Yeah, there's a cracked one right there. That's ever so slightly unnerving, I would say. You know, the water damage in here, the overall decay doesn't look so bad, but when you look in certain corners, it does start to show that this building's just been sitting here. You could actually see it in a few places. See the paint starting to peel. Water seeps in. As the mall continued to operate since its final purchase, hope of a renewed use came in 2019. The developers had announced their intentions to demolish the mall and, in its place, construct 4 condo towers totaling around 2,000 units. The development also included a large courtyard area, along with commercial space, as well as a market district. The entire project was initially valued at around $700 million, which would ultimately increase to over $1 billion by 2022. The same year, in fact, that the developers would shut down the property for good. That would ultimately happen on December 31st. Funny enough, I was actually there on one of the last few days. But after its closure, the demolition timeline of February 2023 would come and go without any real changes. The mall would instead just rot away. Those developers ultimately stated that due to higher interest rates, they would need to sell more than 400 condo units before demolition would start, adding that the poor economy would not make that sales number feasible. Therefore, the development would be put on hold indefinitely. Good Lord, this corridor looks terrifying. But how could I not go down it? Oh, here's the administration office. Whoa. Why are there people's clothes in here? Jeez, these clothes are literally from the 90s. Look at this. Wow. Jeez. It wouldn't be a Bright Sun Films video without me spending 7 hours digging through files to find anything interesting. These are pretty cool though, these bulletin boards here. March 2005, so this is probably when they converted a lot of the existing retail into potential city office space. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here's the bridge to parking, that's right. And yeah, this is that call center office. And I guess this is where we are right now, inside the administration offices. It's always interesting to go through architectural plans. This is like how the floor is laid out, all the tile. After sifting through hundreds of files and plans only illuminated by my camera light, I started to get pretty enraged by the whole history behind this mall. The urban renewal programs of the 1960s and 70s obviously have not worked, and they've only shown that they were extremely short-sighted and have been a callous disregard of history. In Hamilton's case, they set out to destroy a massive block of small businesses, beautiful architecture, and culture, all to build this ugly, brown, architecturally disconnected plaza. It has aged horribly, and it's truly staggering to me that in the late 80s, developers thought this area could use even more indoor retail space. Without free parking, competition from other malls in the area, as well as the perception that the mall was unsafe, shoppers and retailers were just never drawn here like the developers had hoped. Even from an aesthetics or usability point of view, while the interior Galleria was an arguably pleasant place to be around, the exterior certainly wasn't. It was a massive brick wall, originally with little windows to see inside, and very few stores with street access. It's really not an attractive place to visit as a pedestrian. It's just a massive brick wall on what's otherwise a wonderful and vibrant street. I mean, that's best exemplified by the stark contrast across the street. There you have historic buildings with boutique shops along the sidewalks and rental apartments on the floors above. I mean, what side of the street would you rather walk on? Really, from the very start, this whole project was an enormous failure, burning millions of dollars and leaving behind an ugly, now abandoned liability in the middle of a growing city. But aside from all of that drama, this 30-year-old mall stands as, for however long it has left, a preserved relic from a different era in our world. For me, this has been a really interesting look at a completely different type of mall. We all know that suburban shopping centers have been dying for years, but rarely do we get a look inside an abandoned urban one. One that represents flawed thinking of a different time, and one that never got a chance to succeed. My name is Jake, and thank you very much for watching.